Hello, everyone. So we're here tonight for the launch of Adroit's issue 55.
Mhm.
So we're very lucky tonight because we have seven authors who are going to read with us, some who are winners or runner-up from the Prose, the Adroit Prize, and from the inaugural Adroit Prize. So I hope you are as excited as I am. It's going to be a wonderful reading. So tonight, our first authors to read is going to be Rebecca Bernard. She is the author of the story collection Our Sister Who Will Not Die, published by Mad Creek Books in 2022. Her fiction has most recently appeared or is forthcoming in Oxford American, the Cincinnati Review, Mississippi Review, and Southern Indiana Review. She's an assistant professor of English at East Carolina University, and she serves as a fiction editor for The Boiler and the North Carolina Literary Review. And she is the winner of our Editor's Prize. So, welcome, Rebecca.
Hi, thanks so much for having me. Um, so very much thanks to the editors and thanks for everyone who's here. And I'm really excited to hear everybody read. So I'm going to read just the first few pages of the story that'll be in the issue. So this is called, and I guess like here's a couple little facts about it before that. So it's titled In Plato's Cave #1, which is actually the title of a painting by Robert Motherwell that I first saw when I was 16 at the National Gallery of Art, which is actually in the story. Like I stole that little bit of my life and put in there. Um, and the other thing is the opening line to the story is something that a man said to me, and I repurposed. And then, I mean, if we were in person, I would tell a joke, but I thought about it and I'm not going to tell a joke. So that that's my joke. All right. All right, here we go. In Plato's Cave #1. My wife amputates human feet, 3 to 4 a week. A grim business, though a person can get used to anything. Chop chop, she says to me over pasta, over linguine Alfredo or penne alla vodka. She slurps the sauce, always extra sauce, and I picture the population of human beings she's deforested that week. Stop. Can make you lose sensation and give it long enough and you end up at my wife's clinic. Access to preventative care and poverty, diabetes most often the culprit. And my line of defense, surgeon, and I'm a lecturer in art history. Women who own cashmere turtlenecks and drink Beaujolais and talk about surrogacy because neither one of us wants to grow another person inside of us, at least not for a full 9 months. Her lips. Let's stranger's sperm, a borrowed womb, and all the bigwigs of big sugar sustaining my practice. Funny. I fell for would not have either. And early, exhausted from all that cleaving, the soapy water, then resurface. Kitchen is immaculate, the way we like it. A room so clean it makes an argument that we might not even exist. Gazing at the empty suburban street, I see the outside before me. All that separates us, a thin line of glass. Me here, meaning, how possible would it be to find myself there instead, peering in, aware of what I've lost, yet tethered. My wife snoring. I turn off the light and feel my way to bed. Twice. I project slides of famous paintings and discuss them with a sea of undergraduates. Portrayals of parts, like Bruce Moore's chicken feet or Salvador Dali's nose. Remember, I project Vasily Dmitrovich Polanov's right hand keeping the staff, where we left off. I ask the collection of heads before me, what is because that's all we're ever doing, really. It changes our perspective, adds another. It teaches us to really see, says a third. Tap the laser pointer against my palm, then highlight the uneven edge of Plenev's severed hand. Yes, I say, but what exactly do you mean? Then speak, leader, their voice not disembodied but firm. Remember that we have them. It reminds us we're a collection of pieces put together. The hand lets us know ourselves as if we'd forgotten ourselves. The Red Model by Renee Magritte. Yes, will arrive. Morning. Myself, so I know where I am.
Rebecca,
Head,
I'm sorry to interrupt. You're cutting in and out a lot for everyone. I don't know if there's a way to approach the mic or we fully losing you like often. And if you want, you can start from the top again because it was cutting a lot.
Shit, I'm so sorry.
No,
Okay.
it's okay. I didn't want to interrupt you because I wasn't sure if it was gonna last or not, but yeah.
Okay. Well, I didn't tell a joke, and here's the story. All right.
We heard the intro.
Oh
It
gosh.
just when you started reading the story. So you can
Okay,
start
yeah.
from the top of the story.
My bad. Okay, here we go. In Plato's Cave number 1. My wife amputates human feet, 3 to 4 a week. A grim business, though a person can get used to anything. Chop chop, she says to me over pasta, over linguine alfredo or penne alla vodka. She slurps the sauce, always extra sauce, and I picture the population of human beings she's deforested that week. Stumps, I mean, all of them. It's because they lose their sense of touch. Certain illnesses can make you lose sensation and give it long enough, and you end up at my wife's clinic. Your standard lack of access to preventative care and poverty. Diabetes, most often the culprit. And my wife's the last line of defense. My wife is a doctor, a podiatric surgeon, and I'm a lecturer in art history. We're successful women who own cashmere turtlenecks and drink Beaujolais and talk about surrogacy because neither one of us wants to grow another person inside of us, at least not for a full 9 months. How many people does it take to make a baby? My wife jokes, pesto greening her lips. Let's count. Your egg, a stranger's sperm, a borrowed womb, and all the bigwigs of Big Sugar sustaining my practice. My wife laughs, but I don't find it funny. I like to believe the woman I fell for would not have either. I do the dishes while she turns in early, exhausted from all that cleaving. My hands disappear in the soapy water, then resurface. I work until the kitchen is immaculate, the way we like it, a room so clean it makes an argument we might not even exist. Finished, I stand in the living room, gazing at the empty suburban street. I'm inside, but I see the outside before me, all that separates us, a thin line of glass. Lately, I wonder, what's keeping me here? Meaning, how possible would it be to find myself there instead? Peering in, aware of what I've lost, yet detethered. From the other room, I hear my wife snoring. I turn off the light and feel my way to bed. Twice a week in a darkened theater, I project slides of famous paintings and discuss them with a sea of undergraduates. Lately, I'm drawn to portrayals of parts, like Bruce Moore's chicken feet or Salvador Dali's nose. The first Tuesday in September, I project Vasily Dmitrovich Polenov's right hand keeping the staff. I continue the conversation where we left off. And what do we get in isolation? I ask the collection of heads before me. What does it mean to take a piece and make it the whole? The students raise their hands, invent answers because that's all we're ever doing, really. It provides focus, says one. It changes our perspective, adds another. It teaches us to really see, says a third. As I lecture, I tap the laser pointer against my palm, then highlight the uneven edge of Polenov's severed hand. Yes, I say, but what exactly do you mean? The third student hesitates, then speaks into the dark void of the theater, their voice not disembodied but firm. The hand alone makes us remember that we have them. It reminds us we're a collection of pieces put together. The hand lets us know ourselves, as if we'd forgotten ourselves. Wonderful, I respond. I click to the next slide. The Red Model by Renee Magritte. A pair of boots becoming feet, the light yellowish and sickly, what's beneath revealed. And what do you see here? I ask the darkness. Wait long enough, and an answer will arrive. I'll stop there. All right. Thank you so much.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Rebecca. I'm glad you could restart because it's just
Yeah.
such a powerful piece. I was like, oh, we can't lose you that much.
No, no, thank you. Sorry about that.
This piece is so delicate. Like it's just a fine balance of all the philosophical elements and like in the painting, in the life. Please, everyone, like read this piece up to the end when it's published. It's just stunning. Just all I have to say about this one. So our next reader is Kaya Dirks. She's a senior at Yale University, where she recently received the 2025 Elmore E. Willets Prize for Fiction. Her stories appear or are forthcoming in Black Warrior Review, the Adroit Journal, Smoke Long Quarterly, and elsewhere. She was a finalist for the Anthony Vesnas So Scholars Program in Fiction. Please welcome Kaya.
Hi, I'm going to be reading an excerpt from my story, Dead Ringers, and thank you to everyone who's here and listening. I loved the piece that came before. That was beautiful, and I'm just honored to be here. So, I am stuck at the St. Mary's Memorial Hospital for Cancer Research because mom has breast cancer with a capital B. I don't do much when waiting in a hospital center. There's only a lot to do if you are the actual patient. The actual patient is mom, on account of the golf ball tumor in her left boob. I just sit in the waiting room with the People magazines and the crying boyfriend who keeps calling his mom and saying, I can't believe Jenny has cancer. The hospital's nicest nurse, Amy, mistaking my boredom for deep despair, comes over and gives me a tropical punch Capri Sun. People are always giving me tropical punch Capri Sun like I'm a little kid. I live in northern Illinois when there is real winter and the parking lots freeze over. So the tires of Maria's Honda Civic skid out when she pulls us into the Chick-fil-A. Maria Gonzalez is quiet and timid and kind of boring, like the kind of person who is too scared to text in a group chat. Just loves other people's messages. She always lets me pick where we go to dinner. I want chicken. Now Maria Gonzalez is convinced that I'm deeply traumatized about mom's breast cancer with a capital B. We drive her dad's white Honda Civic. Maria grips the wheel hard. Her nails are painted pale pink, done herself and not at the salon. I can tell because there's a little paint outside the nail. How did you feel about Maria says softly. The weather's so ass, I say. You went to the hospital today, right? She says. Yeah, the weather was ass, I say. It was like 7 degrees outside. We are in the drive-thru of the Chick-fil-A because I don't want to put on my puffer jacket and walk outside. It's snowing. Snow is crusted on the corner of the Honda Civic windows, making them look dirty. Maria is still in her Sacred Heart uniform, like the pleated skirt and navy blazer. Her brown hair is mostly split ends. I just want chicken tenders. I don't know why she's my best friend. At least I know how to get her to stop staring at me with big, sad brown eyes like I'm about to have a nervous breakdown and start sobbing in the shotgun seat of her dad's Honda Civic. Do you think you'll see John this weekend? I say. Maria keeps staring at me. I don't know, she says. Well, what do you think? I say. I don't know, she says softer. Has he texted you yet this week? I say, even though I know he hasn't. John Allen is this German-looking guy who goes to Sacred Heart's brother school, Cathedral. Maria Gonzalez is totally in love with John Allen. Every third weekend, they go back from the party together and fuck on his divorced dad's couch. I know that John Allen makes Maria miserable. I shouldn't have brought him up. I look at Maria with both eyes, hard. Sometimes I feel this hot energy in my stomach like I want to be really cruel to her. Like I want to cut her open and watch all her strawberry jello guts tumble out. And that's where I'll stop. Thank you guys.
It's an intense stuff, but I love it. Yeah, this story like surprised me by the intensity you bring to like this like burst, like the sentence you closed on. It's like they're peppered through and like the character is so contained and like trying to be in control. This is like the little cracks that like keeps building up in the story. It's It's really masterful. I was really impressed, Kaya, about that. So Kaya was a runner-up for the Adroit Prose Prize, as is Eliza Gilbert, who is next. And she is a double feature since she was also runner-up for the Poetry Prize. So just, you know. So Eliza Gilbert is a recent graduate of Vassar College. Poetry can be found or is forthcoming in the Kenyon Review, the Threepenny Review, the Iowa Review, the Adroit Journal, Frontier Poetry, and others. She received the 2023 Iowa Review Award for Poetry, as well as LitMag's 2023 Virginia Woolf Award for Short Fiction. She was born and raised in New York City. Welcome, Eliza.
Thank you so much. And Kaya and Rebecca, those were incredible. It's so fun to be in this company, and I can't wait to hear all the other pieces. So I'll just read from the beginning of the story that's going to be in this issue, and it's called Plotnik. As a child, in the incubator, I was practically fluorescent. The way my father told it, the piss light of the Lenox Hill NICU shone straight through my skin. You were a dark pink gummy bear, he said. You were 3 pounds, 8 ounces of naked mole rat, newborn possum. You were a tiny rotisserie chicken full of tubes. He called me shrimp and gumbo and scampi, and on the day the nurses removed me from my enclosure, he trundled me across the ward in the crook of one elbow, whooping and stiff-arming around the reception desk. He puppeteered my hands to wave hello to pretty nurses. He dreamed me up an Elmer Fudd voice. When he brought me downstairs to my mother's recovery room, he held me in the style of that mandrill from The Lion King, my steamed shrimp body raised and sanctified above his head as he beatboxed to the circle of life. It wasn't long before the nurses forbade his theatrics. Mom's blood pressure was capricious enough as it stood, and the dialysis exhausted her to the point of cruelty. She called him parasite and man-child and fuckhead. When he protested that Jesus' Son was one of her favorite books, she made a low, throaty noise and spat at him. By that point, there was so much fluid pooled up in her body, she looked like some preternatural collage of bloat and bone, that the spit reached all the way to his clavicle. Really, he should have known better. Mom had a long-standing issue with him modeling himself after Dennis Johnson characters. My mother was 27, my father was 29, and they lived in a walk-up on Clinton Street above a new agey ramen shop. They were not in love, my father would explain to us a decade later from Nan's couch after his second stint at the swanky Patjog rehab. Eva and I were on our bellies on the pink shag rug, playing mermaids. Aunt Louise was in the kitchen, on the phone with Dad's methadone clinic. We could faintly hear her chattering about take-home doses with his counselor. No, never in love, Dad said, circling his hands. We never even tossed the word around. We were more mature than that, you know? Eva and I gave affirmative whacks of our pretend tails. But we lived together excellently, your mother and I. His eyes trailed off to some dream in the middle distance. We kept a clean apartment, a beautiful Scandinavian kitchen. She liked Mad Men, I liked MasterChef. Once Eva got over the colic, she was a very cool kid, very fun to hang out with. But we were young parents, you understand. Even worse, not quite young enough for the sympathies and allowances of, say, a pregnant 18-year-old. So it was all very tricky. We were reading articles about preschool and potty training, but at night we still wanted to bar hop on the Lower East Side, you know. There was sacrifice involved. Aunt Louise came into the living room then, with a drawn expression and a little paper cup of Dad's pills. Eva and I went up to the attic crawl space to play hostages. And that's where I'll stop.
Thank you, Eliza. So beautiful. So the story later on, like, focus on the two sisters and the sense of family they're trying to create or make sense of. Is just so beautiful, and it moved quite a lot, like, along the way. So please read it to the end. So next up is Elizabeth Graver. So Elizabeth Graver's fifth novel, Cantica, was inspired by her grandmother, Rebecca, who was born into a Sephardic Jewish family in Istanbul and whose shape-shifting life journey took her to Spain, Cuba, and New York. Cantica was awarded the Edward Lewis Walland Award, the Julia Ward Howe Award, the Massachusetts Book Award for Fiction, and a National Jewish Book Award. It was named a Best Historical Fiction Book of 2023 and Notable Book of the Year by the New York Times, and a Best Book of the Year by NPR, Lilith, and Libby, and translated into German and Turkish. Elizabeth's fourth novel, The End of the Point, was longlisted for the 2013 National Book Award in Fiction. Her other novels are Awake, The Honey Thief, and Unraveling. Her story collection, Have You Seen Me?, won the 1991 Drew Hines Literature Prize. Her work has been anthologized in Best American Short Stories, Prize Stories, the O. Henry Awards, and Best American Essays. She teaches at Boston College. Please welcome Elizabeth Graver.
Thank you, Sophie. It's great to be here and lovely to be in such beautiful company with this wonderful journal. And I also love that I'm following one still college student and one recent graduate because my story is about a college student, and it's inspired by my mother, who's actually on this Zoom, who is 89 now. So the story is set, you can go back, in 1957. And when my mom was a student at Queens College in New York. So I'm going to read partway down and just fill you in a tiny bit. So my mother was a first generation college student, the child of Sephardic immigrants. The story actually was originally part of the novel Cantica that came out a couple years ago, and I cut it and recast it. But the story set in 1957. Queens College was a public college that had been founded just 2 decades before, and Suzanne, who's closely based on my mother, although it is fiction, is on the student senate, and she and her fellow senate members have invited John Gates, the editor of the communist newspaper, The Daily Worker, to speak as part of a slate of events for Academic Freedom Week. So while the story is historical, you might see some echoes with our current times. So I'm jumping in the middle, but I think you'll be oriented enough. On the morning of March 11th, Sue checked in with the chair of the Campus Affairs Committee, an eager Beaver sophomore girl who enlisted cookie bakers and arranged for extra folding chairs with fire code rules in case of overflow crowds. An hour later, Sue was bent over an American history quiz when a silver-haired woman knocked on the classroom door, summoned her, and led her across the quad to the provost's office. "Can you tell me why?" Sue asked as they entered the building, and the woman said, "No idea, but don't worry. He doesn't bite. Leave me your coat, dear. I'll hang it up." In the office, Provost, Professor, Sir, what to call him, Shannon offered her a seat, thumped the leather blotter, and said he wasn't going to beat around the bush. He'd spent the past 20 years trying to protect this place from its undeserved name of Little Red Schoolhouse, which is also the story's title. Did she realize she was undoing that work in one day? "I'm sorry, sir?" "Why the hell, Miss Levy, why the heck did you need to invite somebody like John Gates to campus? Of all people, Gates? I'm aware there's been a takeover of the Student Senate this year. Do you people have a beef with Queens College? Are you trying to damage our reputation? Is that why?" "Definitely not," she said. "We've organized a balanced roster of speakers and a program of substance. And no, sir, I love it here." He snorted. "You have a funny way of showing it." Perched on the edge of a too-tall chair, she swallowed hard. She did love Queens College, with its arched Spanish-style buildings, picturesquely out of place, built originally as a school for troubled boys. Sometimes she returned to campus after work just to study and smoke cigarettes with friends, though her parents fretted if she wasn't back by dark. She'd never felt at home in Cambria Heights, where the streets were too straight, a grid, a cage, and her childhood full of brothers quick to torment her about the size of her nose or her bookishness. Her parents liked to have fun. They'd go out dancing or play cards with friends, but their fun was not hers, and the Cambria Heights Jewish Center, her mother's cause célèbre, poked into everyone's business, publicly announcing each family's high holiday donations and tracking attendance, even as the sermons were a snooze and Hebrew lessons not offered to the girls. Queen's College, though, had her heart. "If you love it here so much, Miss Levy, why are you trying to deceive us?" asked the provost. "Deceive you? How?" "Pulling this last-minute stunt, inviting Gates. I understand you wrote the letter." "Yes, but I wasn't trying to deceive anyone. I booked Mr. Gates' event several weeks ago. As soon as I heard back from him, I followed the proper steps. The faculty committee approved it. I can show you." "I never approved it, nor did the acting president, but let's not get caught up in red tape, if you'll pardon the pun. Why Gates? Why a communist?" He's just a speaker for Academic Freedom Week because she shrugged. A few other people dropped out. And I mean, it seems to me he has the right to speak. He's actually been breaking with the party lately, criticizing Stalin and the Soviet suppression of the Hungarian revolution. He might leave the party altogether. We have a range of speakers. We believe he has an interesting perspective. "So invite him on your own time," said the provost. "Off campus, if you please. Just get a chaperone." The provost laughed, a donkey's bray, and fiddled with his wedding ring, and Sue had a flash of pity for his wife. "Try to see my perspective for a moment, Miss Levy," he said. "I'm trying to steer a reasonable course for a serious, if fledgling, public university operating on limited resources in challenging times. How old are you?" "Me, sir? 21. "A baby, just a year older than Queen's College. Do your parents know about your activities? What are their political views, if I might ask?" She sat taller. Was it legal to ask such questions? "My parents are Democrats and proud Americans." "What's your father's line of work?" He runs an ice cream shop." "Very nice, good man. Miss Levy, what's driving you here?" It was an enormous question, and one she didn't fully have the answer to, even for herself. I believe freedom of speech is a central value, a tenet of democracy. It's the idea of dialogue, having a chance to ask questions, of public discourse. All right. The provost pulled back his chair and stood. "I appreciate the civics lesson, but I'm pressed for time. I'm afraid there's a problem with the room." "Excuse me?" "The room was double booked. We have someone from the ed department coming to speak. An honest mistake, even on our end." He shrugged his wide shoulders. "You'll have to cancel Mr. Gates' appearance. Maybe he can come some other time. Do you have a phone number for him on you?" "With all due respect, sir, you can't just—" "Miss Levy, I am counseling you to cancel." He pointed to the phone snug in its cradle. "I can't do that on my own," she said. "I need to consult with the Senate. If you like, I can call a meeting." He looked astonished, then weary. "You really want to derail your education, throw everything away to make a point? Bring on the socialists, Miss Levy. Bring on anyone you want. There are plenty of rabble-rousers in your lineup, but spare us the communists, who know little of freedom, except that they're against it. I'm counseling you as I would my own daughter. Do yourself a favor. Make that call." Sue climbed off the chair, then wished she hadn't, for her legs were unsteady, and she felt like she might vomit, or worse, cry. The provost had frightened her, but she would not be frightened. A saying in Ladino came to her: "Voz de pueblo, voz de cielo," voice of the people, voice of heaven. She knew almost nothing of her father's childhood in Turkey, except that it was impoverished, but her mother, who'd been rich for a time, loved to tell stories, so she knew that the maternal side of her family had left Turkey for Spain, partly in the name of freedom, and that they'd operated at some risk a secret temple in Barcelona where they'd sheltered war refugees. Closer to home, she knew her parents came to America because it was the land of the free and could offer their children a quality public education, the same one that taught her the very principles the provost was asking her to forsake. "I'll consult with the Senate," she said softly, focusing on her penny loafers. "Respectfully, Miss Levy, you're making a big mistake not to nip this in the bud." Her head shot up. She met his gaze. "Respectfully, Provost Shannon, I'll consult." I'll stop there.
Beautiful reading. Thank you so much. This piece is so now. It's when we were reading it, we were like, it's so funny how more and more historical fiction, especially when it's based on some family story and family lore, it's just very rich and pregnant. So congratulations for Yeah, bringing us back while keeping us anchored here. And I love how we have the point of view of the family later, and also how it affects different people different way, or like some member of the family know more. It's a very interesting reading.
Thank you
Thank
so
you so
much.
much.
Thank you.
So next up, we are having like the two authors who are part of the translation folio. So we welcome Kit Mode, and who is a translator, and we also have the author with us, Luciana De Luca. So welcome to you both. So Kit Mode is a translator based in Buenos Aires. He has translated dozens of Latin American writers for a wide array of publication and writes review for an Otra Parte and the Times Literary Supplement. And Luciana De Luca studied communication science and worked as a journalist for many years. She has published a short story collection and two novels, Otras Cosas. So sorry for the Spanish. Por las que, I didn't have this ahead of time. I'm gonna skip the title. De Luca has also written over a dozen books for children, several of which have won awards and been translated into English. So welcome to you both, and Kit Mode is gonna like read his translation. Thank you so much.
On behalf of us both, thank you very much for having us. It's an absolute honor to be with such an extraordinary cast of writers. And without further ado, I think I'll get all the way through this, but someone wave at me if I'm going over. This is The Bone Tree. No mirages here. It's just flat. Not a shadow to be seen. No shadows at all. A few, cast by the odd cloud, one in the sky and one on the ground. You were 17. You didn't know whether you wanted to be there, you and your comrades, but you didn't have a choice. You were sent out to patrol the plains, ordered to stand guard at the worst possible times, at midday, when even the bugs run for cover. 2, 3 in the afternoon. First, they riled you up nicely, like lions drooling over the scent of raw meat. Sheer cruelty, broiling your mouths and spirits. The corporals sat you in a row and made you clean their rifles, telling the scary stories that spread around the barracks. They unsheathed them like knives concealed under their uniforms, the swamp fiends that follow you around, showing the patience that comes with a diet of rotting meat for your whole patrol route, staying hidden until you fall asleep, easy prey. If the thirst or the sun don't get you, the dogs will. They warned, their smiles full of gaps where their teeth should be. The ghost bandits that pounced on guards and left us conscripts mute, their hair white, hollowed out forevermore, skeletal. They were sent back home ruined, good for nothing, not even as spies. They spat the stories out at you, hollering and teasing. The same every week, to make you shit yourselves, to mess you up the way their superiors had messed them up. They always chose you and the other two, always the same group, the three of you from remote villages, already half dead from thirst. They ordered you to stand guard all day and all night. They gave you ridiculous jobs to make sure no one stole the swamp water, to put your ears to the ground every 5 minutes, listening for riders on the plain. The three of you worked as outer structure. Organization was life. It was asserting free will. It was keeping busy to stall the fear. At night, you lay down on the packs you kept your food in and shared out crackers so old and dry they cut the top of your mouth. You shared lukewarm mate, heated in a tin in the sun, until the leaves softened. At night, the plain became a pit, a chasm full of growls and howls. The teasels poked you in the ass and back. The stars pricked your eyes. Everything chafed in one way or another. Relief never came. It was white hot. The night was the gaping maw of a jaguar. You couldn't hear a thing. Time didn't pass because nothing changed. You did, but not much. You changed without a sound. Your skin began to crack. You didn't say much. You stayed there, where you were left, rationing your water and food, meekly praying to yourselves, which doesn't show so much. One night, it was your turn to stand guard. The others snored, spoke in their sleep, slapped with poor aim at the bugs swirling around, trying to sneak into their nostrils. That night, you would put out the lamps so you wouldn't be spotted while you were asleep. Who would see you? The enemy? Maybe. The dogs? They didn't say. There was a full moon, a wolf moon. You know they don't exist, but you also know that no one knows anything. If you pray quietly to God for your military service to be over quickly, one of your comrades might just rise up with a roar, his back sprouting hair, and rip out the throat of the man sleeping next to him. The moon casts some light. It doesn't happen often. You can see the wings of the insects in the air, the bodies of two comrades on the ground floating in the desert, and the ombu ahead of you, the oldest ombu in the area, people say. Here before the raids, before the militia, before Columbus and the ships, maybe. Before the dinosaurs? I don't think so. A little closer. Stop asking stupid questions. It doesn't look like a tree. It looks like a fort, something made by man, not nature, certainly not by God. And the devil? Perhaps, yes. Something made to scare you, because what other point could there be in growing out here in the middle of nowhere, on the scorched earth, so far from the other trees? You listen to the planes, the scratching of the earth as it swells up and settles down again, the muffled squeals of black birds asleep in the branches. You'd like to sleep, but you can't. Insomnia has set up camp in your head, keeping you awake and irritable. You hear everything, see everything, smell everything. A punishment, a penance. Then you hear the noise. A noise like hooves, but it's not hooves. It's not made by legs. Clack, clack, clack. Something falling and knocking against something else, rising back up and knocking against it again, and something else above it. Clack. Ear to the ground, louder now. Clack, like rain on tin. A vicious hailstorm, the kind that kills crops and livestock. Clack. The moonlight is grey by the time it hits the earth, dyeing everything the same colour. You stand up trembling. You speak to God again, pleading for firm legs, for help to keep from pissing yourself in fear. It might happen to anyone, but just the same, help me to hold it. If it's an animal that's coming for you, fast, you press your legs together, your hands reach for your crotch instead of your rifle. Jesus, stay with me. Don't leave me alone, covered in piss. Where is that sound coming from? From ahead. Where before there was nothing but light, at night, now lights appear. From among the branches of the ombu. What are you thinking? You're thinking about how scared you are. Nothing else. Clack, again, clack, clack. It goes on like that for a while. Without a watch, you can't tell for how long. A long time. Too long. And suddenly it stops the same way it started. It goes out. So what do? Nothing. You stand in the middle of the night waiting for something to happen, but it doesn't. No animals, no Indian raiding party, no rain. There's no devil, and God hasn't answered your call because you give in and piss yourself. You don't have a change of clothes. You'll have to stay like that, on your feet covered in piss. Left alone in the middle of nowhere with the two others fast asleep because it's better to drop to the ground and black out to keep yourself from hearing, seeing, thinking. The moon is still up there. Every now and again you hear a howl, something growling in the distance. Then a branch snaps to give you something else to listen to. You sit back down, damp, and fall asleep. You don't know how. You're woken by a kick to the ribs. Get up, says your fellow soldier. There's something out there. Someone, says the other. They can't stand the dark. They light their lamps and hold them out, swaying, throwing light on your three undead faces. The enemy, maybe? You ask. You're going to find out. Fuck the enemy, they say. This isn't human. You hear the clack, clack, again, louder than before. It's coming from the ombu, says one. So what should we do? Let's go have a look. Are you sure? What else are we doing here? There are three of us. We have rifles and lamps. You walk in single file. It's not very far. The ombu gets bigger and bigger, taller, darker. The branches mass. You can't see where it begins or ends. You walk towards the source of the noise. With your lamps raised high, your fathers on your tongues, your rifles cocked, louder. The watery aura of the lamplight gets there first. You follow behind, shrinking back, terrified. You're in the middle. The cry comes from the man in front. What did he say? It's hard to tell. Clack. He cries out again. What did he say? You ask. You see him pointing. The man behind you is too scared to breathe. At the foot of the ombu, which is black as death, is a pile of something, glowing like yellow. It looks like pieces of wood, dried branches. Clack. Fallen on top of one another. Clack. Like someone has thrown them away. Clack. It's like someone has been tidying up or doing an inventory. But the lights, those lights, brighter than the moon, brighter than the lamps. They can't be. Clack. You walk past the man in front and get closer. What are you doing? Howls the other man. Stop, barks the one behind with the last air left in his body. Clack. It's big, hard. Clack. The tree is so big, the ground is barren, abandoned. Clack. There aren't branches. These aren't branches. It's not wood. These are bones. You're holding a phosphorescent femur, long and bare. You don't cry out and you don't let go. You keep the bone in your hand, crouched in the middle of the plain. The awful tree, clack. The femur grows while other bones fall down around you, on top of you, piling up in a heap, glowing skulls, jawbones, tibias, and clavicles, stripped clean, bones, and more bones. You can't combat anymore. You can barely make out the light from the lamps behind you. You feel something cold in your other hand, the one hanging limp by your terrified body. Something wet brushes your palm and the back of your hand. Something sharp, soft, alive.
Beautiful. Thank you so much to you both. Can I ask what the translation process was like? Since you're both in the room, I imagine you collaborate a little bit.
She sent it to me and I translated it.
But she doesn't read
You-
it after? Like that's what I mean.
I
You
sent
don't.
it to
No,
her.
yeah,
Did
yeah,
you
yeah.
have any notes?
Yeah. No, no, notes, no, no.
Yeah,
Okay,
we
that's
also
what I
have.
was wondering. I was wondering if the author comes back was like, I don't know, but I love how we could like the pace of the piece, like it has like I feel a lot of translation, it just has a little bit of a different taste, and that's what I'm looking for every time I'm looking for translation. I'm reading myself like a lot in French. It's just it has like a flavor. So thank you so much for bringing this. It's just the rhythm of the sentences was really beautiful. I loved it.
Thank you.
So next up is the second translator. So Lee Kyung-min is a writer and translator. She was born in Seoul, South Korea, and grew up in Austin, Texas. She received a BA in comparative literature with a minor in creative writing from Princeton University and is currently pursuing an MA in Korean studies at Yonsei University. A translation of the novel A Mouthful of Fins by Sho Yoon is forthcoming from Doubleday UK in 2027. In her free time, she talks about translation and books on a YouTube channel at Kate Lee 3. Welcome, Lee Kyung-min.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. My name is Kate, and I write and translate under the name Lee Kyung-min. And I didn't realize that we'd be read out loud the shameless plug for my YouTube channel. But I'm so honored to be here. Today, I'm going to be reading an excerpt of my translation of the short story Honmono, the Real Thing by contemporary South Korean writer Song Hae-na. And all you need to know for this excerpt is that the main character is a mudang, which is a Korean shaman. And for their sort of rites to call on the spirits, they sometimes perform what is called like a sword dance, where they sort of like rub or graze a blade on their skin. And the whole idea is that if the spirits are with them, they don't bleed. And yeah, with that, I will start reading. I pack my bags for the mountain, but stay lying on the floor without making any move to leave. Every year for 30 years, I've made this trip, yet today my body feels so heavy. Going up the mountain takes at least 6 days, including a whole day to prepare the food and drinks for the offerings, and then there are alarms every hour to remind you to pray, and nights spent on cold floors. I eat up more time listing every reason not to go. A sigh escapes me. I really don't want to, not this time. My heart's not in it. Besides, who am I supposed to pray to now? All my spirits have left me. They could have given me a small sign, any funny feeling, but they just slipped away, all of a sudden, without warning. It was about 2 months ago that I realized they'd left. At the time, I was busy with endless work requests and physically exhausted, but I was also happy that everything was going well. Preparations were underway for a big Kut ritual I'd been entrusted to perform in an apartment complex nearby for the president of the Homeowners Association. He'd stopped by the week before to ask about his daughter's chances of getting into a good college. Instead of giving him a straight answer, Harmon, the spirit, had laid out a strange fortune. That ground's full of gold, but a bad spirit is blocking everything over there. After a close analysis of her words, I realized she was talking about the old apartment complex, which hadn't met the city's building standards for the past 20 years. In the end, we decided a coup would be necessary to purge the bad energy. The ritual was held in the parking lot. There were more people than cars, both apartment residents who'd contributed to the Kut Fund and others who'd just come to watch. The residents usually don't even allow any weekend flea markets here, the HSA president told me. They say they're too loud. But look how many people showed up for our Kut. If this can get the building approved for renovation, I'm sure people will be lining up for you in no time. The crowd stood around to watch the ritual with equal parts excitement and suspicion. People even came with cameras to record the whole thing and post it online. They captured everything. The exquisite offerings table set with all kinds of colorful dishes and fruit, the folk musicians blowing the taepyeongso and ringing the gong. They focused their cameras on me as I waved a sword in the air and called on the spirits. That's definitely fake, someone said. It has to be, right? Looks legit, though. Well, that's the whole point. They know what they're doing. I could have told them off and made them stop recording, but only a fraud would let that stuff get to their head. Staring confidently into the center of the camera lens, I stroked the blade of the sword across my left cheek as if to say, here's your proof. I'm the real thing, and the spirits are with me now. I waited for the usual response to a sword dance, some shouting or applause, maybe a scream here and there. But there was only a strange silence. Even the taepyeongso and the gong went quiet. I looked at the crowd. In the front row, the HSA president's face had turned white. What was going on? One of the kids holding a camera finally broke the silence. Sir, you're bleeding. My cheek did feel wet. Blood was dripping down my robes. No, I'd never made a mistake like this before. I took a breath and picked up my spirit pole as if nothing had happened. Just nerves, I told myself, from performing for a big audience. I could still call on Harmon now. I began to whistle and shake the pole with its white paper ribbons. I couldn't speak. Just as if they'd known this would happen, neither Haimon nor the other spirits came to me. Sweat was running down my limbs. My legs went weak. Spirits, spirits, are you there? I called, but it was no use. I heard no voices in reply. I stumbled away from the crowd, wiping my bloody cheek with my sleeve, without even stopping to think how I could possibly clean up this mess. The spirits hadn't come back to me after that. Some said to get another mudang to put on a goop. Others told me to drink blood from a chicken's throat. Nothing worked. And when my public humiliation was released on the internet, all my work requests stopped coming in. That's why I'm starting to believe it. What if Haimon really did move to the Shinigi? What if this little kid took all my spirits and all my luck? That sneaky rat, the one smoking a cigarette right now with a client at the end of our street. Thank you.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. This was gorgeous. I can't wait to. I'll have to read the ending. I just didn't get to it, but it's just gorgeous, gorgeous. So the last reader for tonight is he arrived. Yes, Patrick J. Joe lives in Washington, D.C. with his family. His stories have been published in the Cincinnati Review, South Carolina Review, Quarterly West, and X Literary, among others. And he has been honored with the 2023 Pendo Short Story Prize for Emerging Writers, the Cincinnati Review's 2024 Schiff Award for Fiction, and the 2025 Weekly Top 50. He also had story notes and cat picture at his website. Welcome, Patrick.
Hey everyone. Sorry I'm late. But it's good to hear from folks. I don't think I have much to introduce at it, except that it's very, very, very loosely based on how my family once acquired fish one time. Um, okay, here we go. Fish Head Summer. We didn't know anything about people who summered in the vineyard, except that people went to the vineyard for the summer, and it was the summer, and we were people. Summering, as it turned out, required more than Ray-Bans and dining room rehearsals of sitting primly in chairs tucked by imagined waiters. Not that I'd done enough of that anyway. Back then, every distance to me felt imminently closable. A hope so dewy I had no measure for its toll until that weekend in July, the evening when my sister and I sprinted down a wet alley near the harbor in Edgartown. My waspish legs wheeled to keep pace with my sister's urgent stride. Glassy puddles lapped at the heels of my new Sperry's as I stumbled through leftover rainwater pooled in rutted patches of cobblestone. We headed back to the restaurant, I thought. She'd give that manager a piece of her mind and force him to give us a table, I thought. Our lack of reservation be damned. An unstoppable force, she could do whatever needed to be done, get whatever needed to be gotten. Everyone needed a Gia, and she was ours. We didn't stop at the restaurant, though. Out of one shadowy corridor, Gia and I blitzed right past the ichthys's mahoganied and candlelit vestibule into another murky alley. Dumpsters and dingy back doors reeled into view under the last wink of the summer sunset. From the dank hidden brick behind luxury storefronts and restaurants with prefix menus, an odor wormed into my nostrils. I wanted to barf. The hunger came too, but I swallowed it all down. Gia would have to tell me not to complain so much, and I really liked complaining. After a few minutes, metered by the antsy toes in Gia's ballet flats, a steel door swung open. An open palm stretched back to keep me at bay as JJ whisked toward the darker-skinned kid who emerged, fresh cigarette cinched between his two fingers and a damp white dishwasher's apron splashed across his torso. What she said to him I couldn't quite make out, but as she pleaded her case, I pieced together the route we'd taken. We'd rounded to the rear of the Ichthus. The dishwasher boy peered at the two of us, fellow brown kids in need, and nodded and disappeared back inside. JJ tapped her toes. She tissed, tissed, tissed. She fidgeted edgily with the toothpick she must have brought back from the rental cottage. When the kid returned, in his hand was a disposable plastic bag filled with fish heads and fish skeletons, their meatiest bits already filleted for worthier reservationed diners. Blood and gluey chums slurried at the bottom of the macabre bouquet. So this is the best fish on the island, Gia said, curious at the fruit of her labor, held like she expected something different from a bag of guts and bone. We left behind the young dishwasher, his back against the brick in the gauzy shadows with a carefree flit of cigarette smoke wriggling loose into the sky. Gia dangled the sack in front of me and triumphed, "Happy 11th birthday, little brother." We used to joke that despite being raised by the same parents, we were each an only child. Different birth countries and different times, 10 years straddling the millennia, were mostly to blame. That and maybe not enough condom ads in Chinese. When I was born, my father was no longer a poor graduate student and had not only scored a big job at a defense contractor, but had also become a reliable, if not anachronistic, British soldier in local Revolutionary War reenactments. This meant that while Jie attended public school, I went to private. She rode the school bus. I carpooled in a BMW. We were both sides of the American dream, a success measurable by accountants and tax brackets. Mama, Baba, and JJ treaded water in their early days out of a squalid one-bedroom near the Chinatown Super 88, while the only home I knew was the four-bedroom colonial in Lexington, where I had a solarium with a game cube and the pool out back Baba would grouse about skimming. On Saturday mornings when I was 3, JJ taught me to swim in that pool. "You can't lose at the start line," she'd say. With so many years between us, she functioned more as a kind of third parent than a buddy. Whether it was because of her stringy 13-year-old strength or 13-year-old parental instincts, she held my torso low enough that I wrenched my neck doggy paddling to avoid choking down the leafy, half-heartedly skimmed pool water. "I'm drowning," I'd say, not drowning. "It will make you stronger," she'd say, not watching. She wanted to teach me the hard way, the way she had it, to deploy her sage experience, but also to manufacture a struggle she thought I didn't have. "Before you were born, we lived like this," she'd say, like my microdosed drownings were an initiation into necessary hardship, a lesson of what I couldn't inherit. When I first learned to swim, Baba would drop me into the water. This was the YMCA pool in Oak Square, not a private, personal pool. You should be happy I don't just drop you for everyone to laugh at you. I could swim on my own within months. The fastest way back to our rental was the way we came, through the busy center of town. Gia needed to grab a few other items from a little Asian mart nearby, so she sent me back first as my mission. She fiddled with the neck of the fish carcass bag before choking it over to me, like she wasn't sure if I was up for the job. Whenever I was nervous about one of her tasks, she'd tease me about growing up soft and rich, as if Baba and Mama didn't pay for her college tuition by the time she enrolled. This time she looked like the nervous one. I put on my most serious face and nodded unhappily, like Baba did whenever anyone tried to sell him stuff. And it worked. And before she left, she told me to protect our bag to make sure I brought it back, or it would ruin the plans for my special day. A salty breeze clapped at my cheek. The gentle crash of harbor waves hummed alongside the tinny rings from bells atop store doors. Cheery vacationers enjoyed the early night out on the town in vests and plaids and pastels, flaneuring among the shops, sweet with colognes and perfumes and after-dinner cocktails. To get ready for this evening, I'd put on my birthday gift for my parents so I could look the part, what my sister called the New England Wasp Starter Pack. Powder blue Brooks Brothers polo, embroidered Vineyard Vines belt, and J. Crew khakis. The exception being that in these vacationers' hands were nice trendy purses, waffle cone ice creams, and daintily folded knit sweaters, whereas in mine was this swirly sack of fish guts. I held my arm out a foot from my body so I didn't have to touch the precious. Chum was gross. It looked like it'd feel cold and gummy, the fish bones prickly, and worst of all, the see-through plastic didn't hide the gray faces pressed up against the film, their fish eyes as large and vacant as fish eyes. It wasn't every evening that deadness would stare back at me and wish me happy birthday. No matter how I held the bag, as much as I would twist it, one face would glide back around to look at me with eyes coin wide, mouth ajar like it begged to be seen. People sidled past me when I stopped at the middle of the sidewalk, some beginning to notice what I had in my hand. Don't look at me like that. You have to be nice to me today. And the face said nothing. I can't take you back to the rest of your body. Somebody probably ate it already. A watery blood bubble bounced near his silver disc eyeball. What a phenomenon for this face, for it to be both here and in somewhere and in somebody else, multiple places at once. To get eaten was to have your body die separate deaths. What a bad way to go. There's nowhere else. The fish's eyes weren't the only ones I needed to avoid. The longer I walked through town, past shops and shops of antiques and tchotchkes, I could feel more glares from the vineyard summerers. Some had even started to whisper and point, not so inconspicuously. Jeers I could hear over the casual chatter, over the silky, leisurely crash of island waves. My sister did give me one bit of advice before she left. Do not worry about these people. When she handed me the bag, she told me there's not even a vineyard on Martha's vineyard, and the land isn't even Martha's. Martha didn't exist. The place isn't anyone's anymore. It belonged with Wampanoags, she said. They were people who used to live all over Massachusetts before Europeans came, but they killed them. These people are no more deserving than we are, she said. We're all invaders, but not all killers. She had a funny way of telling me what she learned in college, and a funny way of protecting me.
Thank you, Patrick. Just such a wonderful story. This fish heads and guts bouquet kind of stuck with me for days after. Even when I was writing, I was like finding fish heads, and I was like, no, 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 this is not your story. Remember, beautiful. And yeah, this story expands so well. It's so focused on this relationship between this like these two kids. They're still kids somehow, but then it expands and so slowly towards the end. It's for me it was a masterclass in how to wrap a story, but by letting it swell. So I really, really enjoyed this one. And thank you to everyone who came tonight, to the authors, and to everyone who tuned in. The issue will be live tomorrow morning. You can read it online, so please check out all those pieces to read them in full. Thank you to everyone. And this is a wrap for tonight and issue 55.